Americans watch NBC News than any other news organization in the world.
Welcome to Sunday Night. I'm Megyn Kelly. Do you have something damaging on our president? Tonight, an NBC News exclusive.
Well, this is just another load of nonsense.
A tough conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Why do you feel you have the right to ask us these kinds of questions? To moralize and to give us lessons on how to live?
American elections, Russian hacking, and worldwide controversy. Are they all lying? And Cynthia McFadden investigates stunning claims about a billion-dollar drug company.
You have to wonder how they slept at night, because they must have known they were killing people.
Did the drive for profits cost people their lives?
Why have they not been shut down?
A whistleblower speaks out.
Do you feel responsible in some way?
Yes, and I am so sorry.
Plus, Harry Smith reports from Kenya, where elephants are under assault.
I saw my first elephant in the wild, and it changed my life.
And this remarkable American woman is leading the charge to save them.
It seems like women are so involved in this.
There are so many incredible women. Where passion grows, solutions follow.
This is Sunday Night. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us for our first edition of Sunday Night. We begin with our exclusive interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. We had a couple of opportunities to talk face-to-face with him in St. Petersburg, and the main subject, Russia's efforts to interfere in our election. President Putin, you have repeatedly and passionately denied that Russia was behind the interference with our American presidential election. But as you know, the consensus view in the United States is that you did. That's what the 17 intelligence agencies concluded, and that's what the Republicans and the Democrats on the congressional oversight committees who have seen the classified report have said. Are they all lying?
They have been misled, and they aren't analyzing the information in its entirety. I haven't seen even once any direct proof of Russian interference in the presidential election in the United States.
We met President Putin in St. Petersburg, his hometown and Russia's former capital. He grew up in a modest neighborhood here, became a KGB spy master, and has been Russia's strongman for 17 years now. Welcome to the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. It was my job to moderate the forum, Mr. Putin's signature event, with more than 4,000 people in the audience, including world leaders, some sharing the stage. The normally wonkish gathering quickly became heated when I asked President Putin about Russia's attempts to hack the 2016 election. And what the experts say is that this couldn't have been faked, that it's 100 factors that point to Russia. They say it's the forensics, it's the digital fingerprints, it's the IP addresses, the malware, the encryption keys, the specific pieces of code, that all of them point to Russia, and none of them points to anyone other than Russia.
What fingerprints, or hoof prints, or horn prints? What are you talking about? IP addresses. They can be invented, you know. There are a lot of specialists who can even make it so it comes from your home IP address, as if your 3-year-old daughter carried out the attack.
President Putin, there are reports today in the American press that the Trump administration took active steps to ease sanctions on Russia almost immediately after Trump took office. Was this possibility ever discussed between the Trump team and your representatives prior to President Trump being inaugurated?
You know, I saw what was happening. To be honest, it was a big surprise for me too. What they're saying is just nuts. I don't know where the people spreading this disinformation came from. It's some sort of catastrophe.
After those testy exchanges, we weren't sure what was going to happen later when we sat down for our one-on-one interview and went right back to the issue of hacking. You had said for months that Russia had nothing to do with the interference of the American election, and then this week you floated the idea of patriotic hackers doing it. Why the change, and why now?
I hadn't said anything. It's just that French journalist asked me about those hackers. I told him the same thing I can tell you. Hackers can be anywhere. They can be in Russia, in Asia, even in America, Latin America. They can even be hackers, by the way, in the United States, who very skillfully and professionally shifted the blame, as we say, onto Russia. Could you accept that? In the midst of a political battle, by some calculations, it was convenient for them to release this information. So they released it, calling out Russia. Can you imagine something like that? I can.
Then the former KGB agent floated a Cold War conspiracy theory about U.S. dirty tricks.
There is a theory that Kennedy's assassination was arranged by the United States intelligence services. So if this theory is correct, and that can't be ruled out, then what could be easier in this day and age than using all the technical means at the disposal of the intelligence services, and using those means to organize some attacks, and then pointing the finger at Russia?
For the record, U.S. intelligence has concluded Mr. Putin himself ordered the disruption of the election. Regardless, President Putin said the U.S. should be the last country to accuse Russia of meddling.
I will tell you something that you probably already know. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but the United States, everywhere, all over the world, actively interferes with the electoral campaigns of other countries. Put your finger anywhere on the map of the world, and everywhere you will hear complaints that American officials are interfering in internal electoral processes.
But with respect, that sounds like a justification.
It doesn't sound like a justification. It sounds like a statement of fact. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. But I repeat, we don't even have to do that. Presidents come and go, and even the parties in power change. But the main political direction does not change. That's why, in the grand scheme of things, we don't care who's the head of the United States. We know more or less what is going to happen. And so in this regard, even if we wanted to, it wouldn't make sense for us to interfere.
But the FBI, Congress, and a special counsel are nonetheless investigating Russia's interference, and whether the Trump team was in on it. A special counsel has been appointed to investigate contacts between your government and the Trump campaign. You've said that your ambassador, Kislyak, was just doing his job, right? So what exactly was discussed in those meetings?
There were no meetings. You understand? There were no meetings. When I saw this, my jaw dropped.
No meetings between Ambassador Kislyak and anybody from the Trump campaign?
I have no idea. I'm being completely honest with you. I don't know. The routine job of an ambassador. Do you think that from all over the world or from the United States, the ambassador reports to me every day who he meets with or what they discuss there? That's complete nonsense. Do you even understand what you're asking or not?
Well, you're his boss.
Listen, his boss is a minister of foreign affairs. Do you think that I have time to talk to our ambassadors every day, all over the world? Complete nonsense.
Among those under scrutiny is the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. At a meeting with Russia's ambassador last December, he reportedly tried to establish a secret communications channel with the Russian government. This was a proposal by Mr. Kushner.
I don't know about this proposal. No proposal like that came to me.
Mr. President, did Jared try to set up a back channel to the Russians?
Have you gone back to speak with the ambassador about what was in those discussions he had with Jared Kushner, with anybody else from the Trump campaign?
No.
Never?
No, I haven't.
Aren't you interested?
No, because had there been anything significant, he would have reported it to the minister. The minister would have reported it to me. There weren't even any reports. There's nothing to even talk about. There wasn't even any kind of specific discussion about sanctions or anything else. For me, this is just amazing. You created a sensation out of nothing. And out of this sensation, you turned it into a weapon of war against the current president. Well, this is, you people are so creative over there. Good job. Your lives must be boring.
Michael Flynn hasn't had a boring life. In 2015, he attended an event with President Putin in Moscow. He was later hired, and then fired, as President Trump's national security advisor, and is now being investigated for his Russian connections. Did you know General Michael Flynn? He came over here for a dinner, a photo of which has been widely circulated in the American media. What was the nature of your relationship with him?
You and I personally have a much closer relationship than I had with Mr. Flynn. You and I met yesterday evening. You and I have been working together all day today, and now we're meeting again. When I came to the event for our company, Russia Today, and sat down at the table, next to me there was a gentleman sitting on one side. I made my speech, then we talked about some other stuff, and I got up and left. And then afterwards I was told, you know, there was an American gentleman, he was involved in some things. He used to be in the intelligence services. That's it. I didn't even really talk to him. That's the extent of my acquaintance with Mr. Flynn.
But what about his relationship with President Trump?
I would get along with Russia, and I'll get along with Putin. And he's not going to make us look bad anymore. But we're going to get along.
There have been questions in America about Donald Trump's finances. He hasn't released his tax returns. There have been questions about this secret Russian dossier, which he says is fake, but which purports to have blackmail information in it generated by the Russians. There have been questions about the communications between the Kremlin and the Trump campaign, all of which has Americans asking, do you have something damaging on our president?
Well, this is just another load of nonsense. Where would we get this information from? Why, did we have some special relationship with him? We didn't have any relationship at all. There was a time when he used to come to Moscow, but you know, I never met with him. We have a lot of Americans who visit us. Right now, I think we have representatives from 100 American companies that have come to Russia. Do you think we're gathering compromising information on all of them right now or something? Have you all lost your senses over there?
Virtually every person Toward the end of our conversation, we moved away from the election controversy to President Putin's reputation for repression. Many Americans hear the name Vladimir Putin, and they think he runs a country full of corruption, a country in which journalists who are too critical could wind up murdered, a country in which dissidents could wind up in jail or worse. To people who believe that, what is your message?
I want to say that Russia is developing along a democratic path. That is certain. And no one should have any doubt about that. Why do you feel you have the right to ask us these kinds of questions and do it all of the time, to moralize and to give us lessons on how to live? We're ready to listen to comments when it's done constructively, with the goal of establishing a relationship, creating a common environment. But we will absolutely not accept when these sorts of things are used as an instrument of political conflict. I want everyone to know that. That's our message.
Coming up,
They must have known they were killing people.
stunning allegations about a billion-dollar drug company. Tonight, a whistleblower speaks out.
More people are going to die, Cynthia. More people are going to get hurt. I'm sorry. Can I have a second?
Cynthia McFadden with a powerful investigation.
Whatever it cost my cousin with pain and suffering before he died, I will return.
This Tuesday on NBC.
Fraud, bribes, bold-faced allegations are stunning. Tonight, a whistleblower is coming forward with information about the pharmaceutical company she worked for. She fears the company's drive for profits cost people their lives. Did it? Cynthia McFadden investigates.
It was lie upon misrepresentation upon lie here.
Yes. Yeah. At every level. It was quite a scheme.
Very well thought out.
It was absolutely genius. It was wrong, but it was genius.
Patty Nixon is talking about the drug company she used to work for, Insys Therapeutics. Insys makes the painkiller Subsys, a fast-acting spray form of the opioid fentanyl. It's 100 times more powerful than morphine.
This is very serious. People have died. People have been hurt.
Just $1 billion by companies. And she's story first.
What I did was trained in trouble. Get right.
Came home from the explosion after this.
Be prepared.
My goodness. Insurance company nearly $. So you put it.
Yeah. An aerosol.
Says wait is took him away. Children.
Over there, I just said is and that was it.
For 3 years. He extra controlling
About
Dr. Action directs policy at Brandeis University. He says a drug like substance is both highly addictive and dangerous, particularly at the highest strength.
That is almost like a lethal weapon. Kill somebody with one squirt.
Subsys is the only product sold by Insys. It's an Arizona company founded by a pharmaceutical entrepreneur, Dr. Kapoor. That's him in the middle. Forbes lists him as one of the wealthy people.
Launched today, this year, $1 million.
Audit Insys drug has a very narrow FDA approval, just for patients with pain that can't be relieved by other narcotics, what's called breakthrough cancer pain.
If you're a drug company looking for profit, you're not going to do very well with an opioid medicine that's only prescribed to patients with breakthrough cancer.
There just isn't enough of them?
That's right.
So when you hear hundreds of millions of dollars is sold in a year, you think what?
That suggests that the company is illegally marketing the drug. They were getting doctors to prescribe the drug in conditions where it should not have been used.
Jeff, of course, didn't have cancer. And Patty Nixon says the patients she knows about either. She found herself part of an elaborate scheme to push the drug on people who never should have had it.
My job responsibilities were to contact insurance companies on behalf of the patients to get the medication approved and paid for by their insurance company.
Because
it's extremely expensive. It can go anywhere from $3,000 to $30,000 per 30-day supply.
To get insurance companies to pay those high prices, Insys to worry their employees like Patty would handle it. Patty's handling it meant spinning lies. This woman was her boss, Elizabeth Guerreri, as seen on her Facebook page. Patty says Guerreri told her this.
Do whatever you have to do, just get it done. I don't care what you do.
Was that the instruction?
Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do.
Do whatever you have to do.
That included, according to Patty, tricking insurers into believing the drug was medically necessary.
I would say, hi, this is Patty. I'm calling from Dr. Smith's office. I'm calling to require authorization for a medication called Subsys.
They thought you were calling from the doctor's office.
Yes, because that's what I told them, because that's what I was trained to tell them.
She says Guerreri also told her and her co-workers illegal tactics.
She told me use this diagnosis code, which was 7.20. That's a diagnosis code for dysphagia, difficulty swallowing.
So let me understand. Your supervisor told you, regardless of the patient can swallow, put this diagnosis code on the form saying that the patient can't swallow, hence the need for a spray under the tongue.
Correct.
And you'll get approved.
Correct.
Which
Absolutely.
Is lying.
Absolutely. It was a complete bold-faced lie.
To get a surefire approval, Patty says she'd sometimes just claim the patient had cancer, also illegal.
It was all corrupt. It was all corrupt, and it was all for profit.
Sarah Fuller didn't have cancer. She was plagued with chronic neck and back pain from 2 car accidents. But her doctor, Vivian Madelon, actually brought an Insys sales rep to an appointment. Her father, Dave, was there.
So they set up the appointment for her to meet with her, and I came with her. She told us about the medication.
This is the drug company
right,
representative.
The sales rep. Yes. They said for chronic pain.
Bringing a drug rep into the room with a patient, I've never heard of that before.
Unethical?
Beyond unethical, completely inappropriate.
Like Jeff, Sarah's doctor quickly increased her dose of the fentanyl spray, tripling it in 1 month. Her mother, Deborah.
You could be talking to her like we're doing right now, and she'd fall asleep.
Sitting in the chair?
Yeah. She would fall asleep on the toilet and then fall over and hit the bathtub. She kept saying, I feel like I'm dying. And I said, if that's how you feel, there's something wrong.
Something was wrong. 14 months after she started taking Subsys, Sarah was found dead on her bedroom floor.
What killed your daughter?
Well, technically, fentanyl, but a drug company who couldn't care less about a human life, and apparently a doctor who didn't either.
The attorney for Sarah's parents, Richard Hallowell, showed us FDA reports of possible Subsys-related complications.
This is the adverse events that were reported to the FDA. Now, these are only reported cases.
Including hundreds of deaths. Patty Nixon told us getting patients like Jeff and Sarah on higher and higher doses was all about money, too.
So a young woman whose story we're following, Sarah, she was started at 200, and within 20 days she was at 600.
Yeah, that's insane. But that was normal practice.
Because everybody at the company makes more money the higher the doses.
Everybody. Sales rep, me, the company. Yeah, because it's more expensive.
You know, I'm running out of words to describe how horrible this is.
And their bonuses were tied to how much and how big the doses were and how big the billing for the insurance company was.
You have to wonder how they slept at night, because they must have known they were killing people.
After 11 months on the job, Patty says she felt so guilty about what she was doing, she stopped going to work. The company fired her. A year later, in 2015, the FBI called. Patty says she told them and a grand jury everything she knew.
Her former boss, Elizabeth Guerreri, was arrested for fraud, but not charged. Though in December, the investigation led to the top of the company.
Spray the drug underneath their tongue.
CEO Michael Babich, who left in 2015, was charged with fraud, racketeering, and conspiracy. 5 other former top executives were also indicted for racketeering. They've all pleaded not guilty. As for Patty, she's dealing with fallout of her own.
Being a whistleblower has made it impossible, at least so far, to get a job.
It has. It's been very difficult and put quite a strain financially on myself and my family.
You have a 12-year-old daughter. How did you explain to her your decision to come forward?
Well, I just told her that people were hurt and somebody's got to stand up for them. And if we were in those situations, that we would want somebody to stand up for us.
The government says that along with the fraud, the conspiracy included hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes to doctors. 3 top prescribers have been convicted of taking bribes in exchange for writing prescriptions. Charges are pending against others.
So do the doctors who were writing prescriptions for Subsys off-label, you would say to them what?
I would wonder whether or not they are doctors or drug dealers in white coats.
As for Jeff's doctor, Dr. William Tam, he was paid fees of $35,000 by Insys, but denies it influenced his decision to prescribe the drug. Jeff is suing his doctor, and Sarah's parents are suing hers, whose license has been temporarily suspended. Both doctors deny responsibility. Jeff and Sarah's parents are also suing Insys, which says it's not liable and not responsible for how doctors prescribe its product.
Even if you win a lawsuit, will it fix things for you?
No, it's not going to bring Sarah back. What it will do is take a company who only looks at their bottom line and maybe think twice that people's lives are more important than their bottom line.
As for the company's founder, Dr. John Kapoor, he doesn't face any charges, and he's still a major shareholder in the company.
We've reached out to Dr. Kapoor several times but have received no reply. So we've come here just outside Chicago to his office to see if he'll tell us what he thinks of the company he started. I'm Cynthia McFadden from NBC News. How are you? I'm looking for Dr. Kapoor, and I'm wondering if he's here today.
No, he's not in.
He's not in today?
Do you have any idea how I could get in touch with him? Because we've written several letters, we've called, we haven't been able to reach him.
If you leave me his information or your information, I will forward it over to him.
Do you happen to know where
No, we don't really want to allow cameras in here.
Okay. Today, Insys has a new CEO. The company told us in a statement it continues to cooperate with all ongoing investigations, is committed to complying with the laws and regulations that govern its products, as well as its sales and marketing practices, and continues to emphasize ethical behavior within its organization. As a company, Insys Therapeutics is not facing criminal charges. It is still selling Subsys, $240 million worth last year. And even though the company has been under intense scrutiny, the FDA has approved it to sell a new drug, a medical marijuana spray.
Why have they not been shut down? Because more people are going to die, Cynthia. More people are going to get hurt. I'm sorry.
Do you feel responsible in some way?
Yes. And I just want to tell everybody out there who's been hurt, I am so sorry for any suffering or any pain, and for those families that visit their family member at the graveyard, and for those family members that see their loved ones going through the pain of addiction. I am sorry.
Coming up, fighting to save the elephants of Africa. This time, the battle is led by women.
It means so much to me that I have relocated my family to Nairobi.
Meet this remarkable lieutenant colonel from America.
That was intense. It was the ultimate success.
Write your name.
Before we move on tonight, let's take a look at some of the other stories we've got coming your way this summer.
The landscape is just so massive and incredibly beautiful.
He taught you how to be a man.
I used to always say I was the man, but never acted like it. But now I do.
When I finished the book, I felt a little worried about you. I wondered if you had really dealt with everything.
Bright, shiny, radiant, happy, beautiful boy. Organ failure.
Because of a dental procedure.
Yeah, because of a dental procedure.
I realized, wow, this is going to impact everybody's lives.
We actually do change evolution.
That's right.
I got this idea for a pillow, and I'm gonna invent the greatest pillow ever. The next half hour is gonna change your life.
Why do I feel the urge to say, operators are standing by?
Is there a day where you could see a Google or an Apple having an Appalachian home up here?
And I believe if we build it, they will come.
Those stories and more coming up this summer on Sunday night. But coming up next, the race to save the elephants.
It changed my life.
Women are leading the way.
You're here to buy a used car, truck, SUV.
Today.
The elephants of Africa are under assault. Deadly poachers kill tens of thousands of them every year. We found one American woman who feels so passionately about saving these animals that she's moved her family to Kenya. She's someone you're going to want to meet. Harry Smith reports.
In Kenya's Tsavo National Park, spring rains have finally come. The grass turned green almost overnight, and just as quickly, there are elephants, more than 100 this day, drawn by instinct and memory across the landscape. Yes, they look red, for red is the color of the earth in this part of Africa. But the sight of healthy herds can be deceiving. The elephant's existence is at minimum threatened, and many fear the elephant is nearing a tipping point, the moment in the life of a species when numbers can't sustain survival. The David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust runs an elephant orphanage in Nairobi. Here, there are dozens of young elephants whose mothers have been killed. The children, collateral damage.
We're here today and we see some of the wounds, the gunshot wounds, the snare wounds, but human-inflicted wounds, and these young, innocent baby elephants are the victims of that. So, I mean, it definitely drives the importance of it home.
Faye Cuevas is an extraordinary woman, an American working for the International Fund for Animal Welfare, IFAW.
Once they're released into the wild, there are many more threats and there are many more variables, but at the end of the day, it's the elephant has to survive.
Tens of thousands of elephants are killed by poachers every year, only for their tusks. It's the ivory they are after. The poachers are usually locals who know the territory, hired by other Africans connected to a crime syndicate that reaches all the way back to Asia.
These are some bushwise rangers here.
Faye Cuevas brings a unique skill set to Kenya. She is a lawyer and a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force Reserve, an intelligence officer whose stock and trade is fighting terrorism and finding bad guys. Together, we walked patrol with a unit of the Kenyan Wildlife Service stationed deep in the bush. Their commander had been killed by poachers just weeks before.
What do you think of the patrol?
Very impressed with patrol. It's a remote outpost for sure. These guys are living in tent conditions, but we have a fine senior NCO that's leading the element today, which is fantastic. Everybody's shiny boots, clean weapons, full clips, ready to go.
How do you make the leap from I'm doing this intelligence work to I'm going to move to Kenya and work to fight elephant poaching?
Well, it was 2 years ago today, almost nearly to the day, that I saw my first elephant in the wild. And it is not an exaggeration to say it changed my life.
I've watched you watch elephants.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see when you see these animals?
Well, you know, so elephants are a matriarchal society. As the matriarch for the family, she has many responsibilities. Some I think we as humans would consider to be traditionally female. She is a mother, but she's also a teacher in that it's her job to teach all of the elephants in the herd skills. She teaches them character. There's a pride and a confidence balanced against a compassion and empathy among elephant herds that's just astounding.
What does it mean to you to know that this animal is under assault?
Well, it means so much to me that I have relocated my family to Nairobi, Kenya, in hopes that we can be part of a much broader effort to save them. Because, Harry, to lose the elephants, which are on a path to extinction, you know, we have nothing but human apathy and greed to blame for it. And that, to me, is an inescapable truth.
Faye is convinced military tactics and technology will make a big difference here. At every stop, she was like a sponge, soaking up local intel.
The quicker that we can collect it and depict those dots on a map, we know when and where it happened and who to attribute the crime or the activity to.
Details and data to build into elephant-saving strategies. It is safe to say Colonel Cuevas is on a mission, and while her military background is highly valued, equally valued are her diplomatic skills. As an honored guest at a Maasai village near the Masai Mara National Park, Faye was all in. Important because the Maasai control hundreds of thousands of acres of open land, making the Maasai a key ally in the fight against poaching. Faye envisions a day when a Maasai herdsman will be able to give wildlife officials a heads up if poachers creep into their territory. To secure that cooperation, we followed Faye on a 5-hour journey. We took the road less traveled. In truth, little more than a dirt trail that with an overnight rain turned into a sticky trap for our vehicles. Getting stuck in the mud was not going to stop Faye. Our destination, the Maasai's sacred forest, home to the Liban, the tribe's high holy man.
Thank you, sir, and we appreciate your leadership on this issue.
He's on board too.
That was intense. For him to endorse a commitment to stopping poaching, it was the ultimate success.
As one of the oldest surviving cultures on the planet, there is little they don't notice.
That warrior knows that area better than anybody. He knows, every bend in the river. He knows where vegetation is. He knows by looking at a rain cloud, which direction the rain will move and how long it will last.
Faye Cuevas is not alone in her fight to save the elephants. In our 2-week travels across Kenya, we were often awed, and we found other women, local women, who are making a dramatic difference. In Kenya's North Country, we met a kind of community organizer / miracle worker named Josephine Ekiru. She works among the nomadic tribes that herd cattle and goats here, an area infamous as a hotbed for smuggling, poaching, and tribal warfare.
My people, my tribe.
Her job, to persuade locals that it's in their long-term interest to protect wildlife. Audacious in that it's a woman delivering the message. Courageous because it's a good way to get killed.
I decided to sit down and I came with an idea of facing these guys directly.
Excuse me.
Because...
Excuse me. You have this idea to come face the poachers face to face?
Yeah.
Weren't you afraid?
I wasn't afraid because I know that if you are fighting for the right thing, you should not be afraid.
She's convinced local tribesmen to stop fighting and stop poaching, to trade their life of crime for jobs as rangers. These two former poachers were mortal enemies.
Centre-cut sirloin and dessert. A 4-course meal starting at just $14.99.
Theaters Friday.
Before we leave you this Sunday night, here's what we have coming up next week. An interview with Erin Andrews. She's the sports reporter secretly taped by a stalker who fought back in court and won.
I'm naked all over the internet and I don't know what it is.
What does it bring up for you?
Oh, it makes me want to throw up and hit him in the face.
Now she shares a whole new ordeal. Did she say to you, you have cancer?
Yeah. I was like, this can't even be real.
Erin Andrews. Let's